Beskriv vad kvalitativ forskning innebär och jämföra med kvantitativ forskning. Ge exempel på 2 frågor som bättre studeras med hjälp av kvalitativa metoder än med kvantitativa och förklara varför. Qualitative research and the difference with quantitative research. Quantitative main orientation is deductive to test theories. It has natural science model, particularly positivism, where science is called science if it can be measured using empiricism. The ontology orientation is objectivism. Qualitative main orientation is inductive. Instead of testing theories, qualitative research aims to generate theories based on empiricism facts, for example, observations. It focuses on how individuals understand and interpret their social reality, interpretation perspective. Based on the ontology orientation, it's the individuals who create and construct the social environment that always changes. Qualitative research has these essential features: rich and deep data. Qualitative data is rich and deep. The data enables us to understand people's experience from their perspectives. On the contrary, quantitative data is hard and reliable. It enables us to explain things, but not understand. Whole. Qualitative data is whole or entirety, while quantitative research gives separate variables. For example, happiness at the workplace. The question for the qualitative research is, how happy are you? How do you view happiness at your workplace? While in quantitative research, it will probably be about how do you rate your happiness at workplace from scale 1 to 5. So it's only just 1, for example. Subjective, not measurable data. Qualitative data is subjective, based on people's perspective, not measurable. Quantitative data is objective and measurable. Insider perspective. Qualitative researchers see themselves as insiders. They have little distance with the participants in qualitative research. Insider perspective. Insight into the other's experience. We get an insight into the participants' experience in the qualitative research, while in the quantitative research, we verify assumptions. Unstructured or flexible. In qualitative research, researchers may have created a list of questions in the interview guide, but depending on the responses of the participant, the researchers may need to jump to the question number 5 if question number 5 is related to the participant's answer for number 2. Then they need to go back to the question number 3. The qualitative research strategy is therefore more flexible than quantitative research. In quantitative research, the research design has been decided in advance. The questions and the numbers are clear. They are designed in advance or systematic. The participants just answer the questions based on how the questions are presented. For example, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The participants should get the same questions in the same order, all of the participants. While in the qualitative research, it is possible that they get the questions in the different order because it's more flexible in the qualitative research. Environment or context can be influential. In qualitative research, the environment or context may affect the research. If the participants seem to be upset, perhaps we need to take a pause or stop the interview, depending on their responses. Alternatively, the interview can be continued next time. In quantitative research, there is control over the environment. Researcher and participant close. There is a close social relationship between the researchers and the participants in the qualitative research, and distant relationship in the quantitative research. Qualitative research is designed to understand human beings' experience from their perspectives. Qualitative research provides story, qualitative analysis, while quantitative research provides measurement, statistical analysis. For example, when you observe the quantitative data, when you want to interpret it, then you use statistics, the t-value or the chi-square. Well, it's not the case in qualitative research. Qualitative research gives a deep understanding, while quantitative research gives general conclusion. Qualitative research is not about theory testing. Individuals study individuals. Social reality constructed. Questions that can be answered using qualitative method. What are the social interaction patterns in different age groups in restaurants and cafes in Luleå? How does mobile phone affect social interactions? Why the questions can be answered better with qualitative method? Because then the questions can, or the answers can give more explanation and deeper understanding, and you will get a story or qualitative analysis, and you can understand people from their own perspectives. Not a yes or no answer. We can interview people or do observation to get more comprehensive answers that lead to better understanding. In turns, we will get a deeper and richer data. Relationen mellan teori och praktik kan variera mellan olika studier. Beskriv och förklara begreppen induktion, deduktion, data-driven kodning samt teori-driven kodning. Deduction is making inferences based on widely accepted facts, theories, or premises. Deductive reasoning is a logical approach where you progress from general ideas to specific conclusion. While induction is the inference based on observations, in inductive processing, we don't have a theory, but we do inference from the materials that we have collected. The goal of the induction, the goal of deduction is to test the theory, while the goal of induction is to the goal of deduction is to get the support for the theory, to test the theory if it's correct or not, if the theory has to be redone or adjusted. On the other hand, we want to verify the theory. Yeah, we want to verify the theory in deduction. Deductive process: theory, hypothesis, data collection, result, hypothesis confirmed or rejected. Okay. Modifying theory if hypothesis is not confirmed. Let me repeat it. Deductive process: theory, hypothesis, data collection, result, hypothesis confirmed or rejected. Modifying theory if hypothesis is not confirmed. In deductive process, firstly, we have a theory to be tested. Then we create a hypothesis. After that, we collect the data. The result determines if the hypothesis confirms the theory or not. If the result does not support the theory, perhaps we need to create another hypothesis and do another test. We can also modify the theory if hypothesis is not confirmed. On the other hand, if the result supports the theory, then the theory is confirmed. Advantage: there is less risk for doing the deductive process. Disadvantage: we can't explain why, but we can only know that there is a causal relation. Induction. Induction is inference based on observation. In inductive processing, we don't have a theory, but we do inference from the materials that we have collected. Firstly, we do observations. Then, after getting the data and result, we create the theory or hypothesis from those materials. In general, inductive researchers don't always generate a theory, but they mostly generate conclusions. Theories have to be tested, but the results from inductive research don't always generate theories that are ready to be tested. Abduction. Used mostly in field studies, like induction, abduction uses empiricism facts. It aims to understand the underlying patterns. It uses theories as inspiration to find patterns. In the abduction process, we both use the combination of empiricism facts and theories to interpret each other. For example, in the medicine, doctors check and observe the patient, then see the theory. Then the doctors may need to check the other patients to compare. Based on the observations, the doctors may need to change the diagnosis and give perhaps another medicine. According to the internet, abduction is inference to the best explanation. In abductive approach, the research process starts with surprising facts or puzzles, and the research process is devoted to the explanation. Surprising facts or puzzles may emerge when a researcher encounters with an empirical phenomena that cannot be explained with the existing range of theories. When following an abductive approach, researchers seek to choose the best explanation among many alternatives in order to explain surprising facts or puzzles identified at the start of the research process. In the course of explaining surprising facts or puzzles, the researcher can combine both numerical and cognitive reasoning. Data-driven coding. The data drives the coding. Note that we are not tabula rasa. We have understanding or knowledge. Theory-driven coding. The coding is determined by the theory. The categories or the concepts that the codes represent come from the literature or theoretical framework, interview themes or questions that are formulated, or from hypotheses or assumptions. Het möjligt att öka kunskap om ett fenomen är att genomföra observationen. Förklara vad som kännetecknar den deltagande observationer som metod. Ge även exempel på fördelar och nackdelar med metoden. Etnografi eller deltagande observation. It is the most perhaps engaging observation or the most engaging method inifrån kunskap. We can get the knowledge from inside. The challenge is to reflect over and balance the participation part and the objective approach. Ethnography, or the participation observation, studies people's behavior and the interaction with their environment. It is usually most in sociology and anthropology, relatively not common in psychology research, but it is used in psychology. Deltagande observation kan syfta på två olika saker. Den specifika datainsamlingsmetoden att genom deltagande i en grupp observera dess förehavanden, eller den vidare betydelsen att samla in fältdata, ibland även kallat etnografi. Etnos betyder folk, grafin betyder skriva. Använder även andra källor som intervju och dokument. The participation observation has two goals. One is to, this specific data collection method is done through the participation in a group, so we can observe the group and the relationship, the social interactions in a group. It also means that to collect the field data, sometimes even called ethnography. Ethno means people, graphy means to write. So it means to write about people. It is also using other resources like interview and documents. När användbart. When do we use this participation observation? The first thing is we want to use this method if we want to understand the behavior of a group naturally, and even the culture and the congregation. It is also used if we want to study the social interactions and the cultures as comprehensively and as naturally as possible. Also, when we want to get broad observations, then this participation observation is very suitable. Deltagande observation som metod. What are the advantages here? We get the data by participating in the daily life of the people that we study. By doing this participation observation, we actually can do two things at the same time. We involve in the interaction with the others. At the same time, we also look what they do. By doing this, we get the first-hand experience. We also can observe both the verbal and nonverbal communication. For example, the movements, the clothing style, the rituals, and so on. However, the unexpected may come, because perhaps we don't know how they would respond. Det finns inte distanser, så det kan vara svårt. There is no distance, so it can be hard. You have to balance the method. come close, but at the same time, you also need to keep the distance. Naturliga situationer. The natural situations. Det överordnade syftet med du är att både kunna beskriva vad människor säger och gör i naturliga situationer. Detta skiljer sig alltså från experiment, där det snarare är forskaren som sätter igång en situation. In these natural settings or situations, then the goal is to be able to describe what people do and say in the natural situations. This is different from experiments, where the researchers who start the situation. Deltagande. Den metodiska ansatsen bakom deltagande observation är att få trovärdiga data, så måste man delta men samtidigt inte påverka situationen genom sitt deltagande. Är det möjligt? The participation method behind the observation is to get the trustworthy data. You have to participate, but at the same time, not influence the situation by your participation. Is it possible? We had this discussion in the classroom. Variations. Observansrollen. Från enbart åskådare till full deltagare, gonativ. Både ytterligheter kunskapsmässigt problematiska. Okay. There are some variations here in the participation observations. For example, the observer role, from only the observer without participating to the participant, go native. The roles have problems or challenges. The second one is the group's knowledge about the observation, from nothing, which can be ethically problematic, to fully aware of your observation. The third one is the information about the objective or the goal, from full knowledge, full information, to nothing. Again, this can be even the misleading information. This can lead to ethical problematic as well, ethical problem. The fourth one is the observation's duration, from a shorter occasion until a few years. The last one is the focus of the observations, from small and focused to the broad and holistic, or the whole, holistic, hellhead. A lot of disadvantages of observation without anyone knowing that you observe them are about the ethics. Unable to mix the methods, observation and interview, unable to interview. Observation can also be done temporarily. Resources, for example, money and time, affect the observation duration. Forskarens roll, grad av engagemang. The roles of the researchers: fullständig deltagare, fully participant, fully a member but unknown identity. You can be a member in the group, they don't know if you observe them. The negative side is that you can be normalized. Deltagare som observatör. Forskaren engagerar sig i samspelet men är öppen med sin identitet som forskare. Participant as observator. The researcher engages in the interactions, but is open with the identity as a researcher. Man behöver inte med i allting. Man är med i en specifik miljö, men inte i alla miljöer. The researchers can participate in some activities, but not necessarily in all activities. Observatör som deltagare. Observator as the participant. Viss mått av observation, men inte delaktighet. There's observation, they do observation, but not fully participate with the environment. Man observerar men inte delaktig. Kortare stund. Man följer personer inte. Man får kanske inte intervjua. Negativ nackdel är att missförståelse eftersom man inte är nära. In this observator as the participant, you observe but you're not participating. It's only for a short time. You don't follow the people either. Fullständig observatör. Samspelar inte alls med personerna. Fully observator. Oh, sorry. Observator is actually observer in English. Fully observer. You don't interact with the people at all. Again, in summary, there are 4 roles of researchers here. Fullständig deltagare, fully participant, deltagare som observatör, participant as the observer, which means you engage in the group and interaction, and you're open as your identity as the group member and the researcher. Observator som deltagare, observer as the participant. You observe, but you don't really participate. Fullständig observatör, fully observer, which means you just observe, you don't interact at all with the people. Preparation. Formulate research questions. It doesn't have to be fixed and ready. Take the previous research or theories. Ask yourself, does it work in this intresseområdet? Vissa privatområden kanske inte passar. Perhaps some private areas are not suitable. Ask yourself, what is it that you want to observe? Because you cannot focus on everything. And then also determine yourself which of the researcher role that you want to take. Kan du smälta in? Förtroende. Etikprövning. Träd i fältet. Vem måste du passera? Vem godkänner din närvaro? You need to get their trust, and perhaps you need to adjust your clothing to get their trust. Don't be private, but you should be personal. Get the trust. To get the information, you need to get their trust. Urvalet, selection. You never get the representatives, first the statistical representative, selective selection, various times, weekdays, and situations. Think about which resources of your materials that you have, depending on the gender, age, the local connection, and language. Field notes. Take the notes in the same day when you have the chance. The advantage with observation is that you can observe and you can study both the verbal and nonverbal communication. And also how things are said, the context, the chronological order, and people's behavior. You need to take those notes in your field notes. Make sure that the quality is good, your material is good, and you have also some quotes from them. You can also use the video recording, bandspeler, video inspelning, but you cannot record the picture and voice. Okay, that's weird. Olika typer av fältanteckningar ska hållas separerade. Observationsanteckningar, OA. What is observed and not so much about the interpretation. It's called observation notes. Teoretiska anteckningar, theoretical notes, is the interpretation and inference of the observation notes. Metodologiska anteckningar, kritiska anmärkningar av det du gjort och sett, validitetsproblematik, the critical marks of what you have done and seen, and the problem of the validity as well. Some questions about the field study are that why it happened, who got it, what do you think about why, what norms are there, which verbals and non-verbals gestures used, who said to who and why. Avsluta, it's hard to know when the participation, observation, or ethnography research should be finished, but you also have to be aware that you have limited resources and perhaps you have personal reasons as well. Also, you may have theoretical saturation, which means the new incoming data is not useful anymore. You need to finish, you need to stop where Soat ala känner sig nöjda. Stop so that everybody feels happy. Explain why, and then make sure that you have a real farewell. Triangulering. Interview, do document analysis. Interviewer. How the informants describe what they do. Observation or observation, what the information, what the people do. For validation, even the document analysis can complete the study. Etiska överväganden. Invasion of private life, informed consent, and confidentiality. Förändring. Hur analysera. And the analyze start at the same time as the data collection. Do the continuous analytical or interpretation theoretical notes on the side or the same time as your observation notes. Separate the observation and the analysis. Read the observation, find the patterns, and then read the notes again and again. Identify which ones are the most relevant in the relation to your goal. Decide whether you want to use the grounded theory or thematic analysis. We will do the thematic analysis to understand the material and understand and analyze it. Find the reasons why people behave that way. In summary about observation, it's a suitable method when you want to get the data, rich data in the natural setting, when you want to analyze people naturally. You will also want to know their behavior naturally as well. Then you observe them. You'll get rich data when you do observation. You can understand about the culture and social interactions in the group. You can see how the group members behave naturally in the environment. The disadvantages are that it takes a lot of resources, time, money. If you want to do perhaps an observation in a cultural ethnic group in a country, you may need to learn the language first or hire a translator. It takes a lot of money and time. It can be hard to take field notes, as it may not always be possible to take the notes during observation. The researchers may have to do it right away after the observation. Delays in note-taking may affect the accuracy due to memory. The researchers may forget what they have observed in details if they don't take the notes immediately. Lack of objectivity. To solve it, researchers need to separate description notes and interpretation notes. Okay, now let's talk about the qualitative research interview. The objective of qualitative research interview is to understand the subject from the participants' perspectives. The interview generates open questions. It is unstructured and semi-structured. Unstructured approach means that the interview is informal to get to know the person being interviewed. Informal conversation. It can consist only one question. It is flexible and requires a lot of time. Semi-structured approach means that the interview has a clear interview guide with various themes and topics or subjects to ask, but the order of the questions is flexible, depending on the responses of the participants. Researchers can add more questions. It requires a lot of time. Qualitative research interview is a work of art because it depends on the researcher's judgment. The interviewer is the tool. The interview result can depend on the researcher's ability, empathy, and sensitivity. What to consider when preparing for a qualitative research interview. Have key questions: what, why, how. What do you want to know? Don't conduct the interview before you know what do you want to know, because you cannot ask about everything. You need to focus on some things. Why? Why is it interesting to know? Then find the previous theories or researchers related to your questions. How are you going to conduct the interview? Is it suitable for the target group? Operationalize the research questions to the interview questions so that it's easier to understand. Create a definitions so that participants can understand it better, so that you understand it on the same way. Prepare well. Selection of participants. How do you get the participants? The choice of the interview place: quiet, not disturbed. Seating arrangement: don't sit too close, but don't sit too far away from each other. If you want to record the interview, ensure that you have the microphone, the battery for the microphone, and so on. Describe the thematic analysis and grounded theory, their similarities and differences. Thematic analysis differences. Thematic analysis is a method suitable for more or less many kinds of questions. It identifies relatively broad themes or categories that summarize the content of the material. Themes are created by the researchers. The critic is that it's not transparent. The goal is descriptive, is to describe something based on various types of text material. Grounded theory, an inductive method that aims to create theoretical categories which are directly grounded in data. The goal is to create a model or theories used for social events and social interactions. Develop theoretical models based on the empirical facts. The data is rich in content from individuals, from their interviews, focus groups, diaries, journals, field notes, based on the individual's perspectives. Constant comparison. The old and the new codes or categories are compared with each other and with the new data. Theoretical selection. The analysis determines which data that will be collected. Data collection and analysis happen parallel. How about the coding process? It's quite long. The coding process. The coding process in grounded theory. The process in which the researcher tries to find out what the data is about. It aims to develop categories and concepts successively. That means in this case, the similarity between the grounded theory and thematic theory is that it develops categories. But the thematic analysis divide the categories based on the themes, based on the topics. Here, the coding process, it aims also to develop categories and concepts successfully. The grounded theory coding process starts with an introductory open coding and finish with an analysis that culminates an own grounded theoretical model. It also creates a theoretical model, creates a theory, same as the thematic analysis. There are various codings in the grounded theory. Open coding, axial coding, and selective coding. Open coding. Each row or sentence is given a descriptive code. The codes are created from the material. Abstract. Axial coding relates the codings, the old and the new codings, developed to categories. Selective coding. Identify core categories. Develop an overall theme or story. The analysis is limited and led by the core category. Categorical saturation, when some comparisons fail to refine the theory. Very complicated and requires high demand of the researcher. Not recommended for the beginners in the qualitative method. Very hard to generate a theory. But perhaps that's the difference. It's easier to generate a theory using the thematic analysis. Similarities. Both of them use orthographic transcription style, which is suitable for them. They use coding. What are the 4 research ethical principles? The information requirement, the consent requirement, the confidentiality requirement, and utilization requirement. Information, consent, confidentiality, and utilization. The information requirement. To provide information to the participants so that they can decide if they want to participate or not. The participation is voluntary. They can exit the participation in the research or study without getting any consequences. It's important to send an information letter in addition to the oral information to participants. The letter should contain the information that participants should know in order to decide their participation. It should use easy and clear language adjusted to the participants' age and skills or abilities. It should contain the following information: background and objective of the research, inquiry about the participation, the study process, risks and disadvantages, the management of the data and confidentiality, and the duration of the data will be kept, how participants will get the result of the study, insurance, reimbursement, voluntary, and responsibilities. The consent requirement. Participants have the right to decide themselves over their participation. They consent to participate and that their data is collected. Researchers should get an informed consent from the participants. For participants younger than 15 years old, they need to get a consent from their caretakers. Participants can decide how long they want to participate. If they want to exceed their participation, they can do it without any negative consequences. Researchers and participants should not have a dependency relationship. The confidentiality requirement. The information collected should be kept confidential. No unauthorized people should get the access to the information. Individuals should not be able to be identified by outsiders. Researchers can use coding or unidentified data. For example, use participant 1, 2 instead of the names. Do not collect personnummer. Important to think about the data security. Professional secrecy. Researchers should not talk about their participants. The utilization requirement. Information collected about individuals can only be used for the designated research. Personal information collected for the research cannot be used by the authorities for decisions that may affect the individuals. Next. Beskriv 4 kriterier som man bör tänka på när man formulerar en kvalitativ forskningsfråga. The questions should be clear and understandable, and that it's possible to do. Have the intention to come up with something new. The question is clear, not formulated as a double question. Have open questions. For example, how do you enjoy your life? And not use closed question with only yes or no answer. Beskriv vad syftet och fördelen är med intervjuguide samt vad den bör innehålla och hur den bör struktureras. Vidare, vad betyder det att operationalisera sin forskningsfråga? The goal of the interview guide is to get rich and deep data that answer the research questions. The advantages are it guides you during the interview, it has the questions with flexible order, it is in the background of the interview. If you forget something, you can have a look at the interview guide. What it should contain: a list of topics, not the checklist, a list of questions, perhaps based on the themes or topics. How it should be structured: it should have the questions or topics structured in a natural, sensible, and helpful way. The questions can be put in the same category or similar themes or topics. Flexible order. What it means to operationalize the research question. It means that you operationalize the research question to the interview question. You make the question more understandable, clearer as an interview question. You use a language that is easy to understand for the target group. Var inne det att transkribera intervjuer? Beskriv 2 olika transkriberingsmetoder så utförligt du kan samt för- och nackdelar med respektive metod. Transcribe interview means transferring the recordings or observations to a written form in order to do a scientific analysis. It means transferring the recordings or observations to a written form in order to do a scientific analysis. 2 ways of transcription methods: orthographic or secretarial style and Jefferson style. Orthographic style focused on what is mentioned. It is the most common used transcription method. It is good to use for thematic, ground theory analysis, narrative analysis, and interpretative phenomenological analysis. The advantages are that it's easier. It's also faster to do than the Jefferson transcription. Disadvantages: it omits the nonverbal communication, such as prosemic communication, the use of physical space between the conversing people, kinesic communication, the body movement and postures, paralinguistic communication, variations in the pitch, volume, and other voice characteristics, chronemic communication, variations of the pace of the speech, and silence. And you know that when people are emotional, they speak quickly. It interprets the words as a formal written language. Thus, the features of language used in daily interaction to reach a goal are lost. Jefferson transcription. Focus on how it is mentioned. For example, the intonation, high or low pitch, speech volume, speech speed, laughter, and other non-words and pauses. It's suitable for conversation analysis and social constructionist discourse analysis. The advantages: it consists of the nonverbal communication, like the high and low pitch, speech volume, speech speed, laughter, and other non-words pauses. Therefore, it provides deeper and richer data as it includes the nonverbal communication. Disadvantages: it requires a lot of time to do the transcription. There are regular updates of the transcription, which means there are new transcription symbols that appear that need to be learned, and old transcription symbols that disappear. It can be a problem if you use a research that uses an earlier Jefferson transcription model. Some words may be written as sounded in a dialect. This makes it difficult to read them. För att kunna värdera kvaliteten på samhällsvetenskaplig forskning brukar man diskutera validitet och reliabilitet. Dessa begrepp anses dock mest anpassade för kvantitativ forskning. Vid kvalitativ forskning kan man istället diskutera exempelvis tillförlitlighet, överförbarhet, pålitlighet och konfirmering. Beskriv vad dessa 4 begrepp innebär i kvalitativ forskning. Tillförlitlighet, reliability. Be transparent about the description of the understanding of the research, description of the data collection, selection of participants, and analysis process. That means, okay, reliability, reliable, be transparent about the description of the research, data collection, selection of participants, and analysis process. Overhead, transferability. The researchers do not define the generalization of the research, but they present the way and the findings made in the end of the way. It is the readers who determine the generalization. People can discuss how and in which situation the research results can be transferable. Pålitlighet is the same, reliability as well. The quality of the technical equipment, for example, the sound quality of the microphone, the quality of the researchers, the description of the understanding, skills to conduct group observations and interviews, skills to follow up with the data. That means it's the reliability here means the quality of the equipment and the researcher, him or herself. The quality of the technical equipment and the quality of the researchers in terms of the understanding, the skills, and so on. Confirmation, or objectivity in the quantitative research. It means the researcher's control over the study. It's a bit weird that these words are different in Swedish, but it's the same in English. Tillförlitlighet means reliability in Google Translate, but actually tillförlitlighet means the internal validity in the quantitative research. It means how do you validate the research? Is the research that you want, the method, is it really what it measures up to for the designated research? Tillförlitlighet is reliability. That's weird. Okay, so anyway, tillförlitlighet, reliability, överförbarhet, transferability, pålitlighet, it's also reliability, and confirmering and confirmation or objectivity in the quantitative research. Okay, I'm just going to repeat it here. The tillförlitlighet means trustworthy. Be transparent about the description of the research understanding, of the description of the data collection, selection of participants, and analysis. Överförbarhet, transferability. Pålitlighet, reliability. That's about the quality of the technical equipment and the researchers. Confirmering, confirmation, or objectivity in the quantitative research. Trustworthy, transferability, reliability, and confirmation.